Hi, I'm James Peck, Curator of Collections here at the Rockwell Museum of Western Art. And today I'd like to talk to you about Charles Lee's painting that you see right here, which is On to Social, painted in 1977. It's this winter 2013's Curator's Choice. Charles Lee, the artist, was a Navajo artist and pastor out of Shiprock, New Mexico. And he painted for over 50 years. He mostly worked in watercolor, and he worked in the studio style that was popular in the 40s, 50s, and 60s in New Mexico and throughout the Southwest. He mostly painted animal scenes, and his favorite subject, as with this painting, were Navajo men and women on horseback. So what we see here in the painting is a Navajo man and woman, and they're riding to a social event or a social gathering, so they're in formal Navajo attire. And we can tell this a couple of ways: from the turquoise jewelry that the man and the woman wear, from the traditional hair bun that they both style, from the brightly colored Navajo rugs that they wear, as well as the shirt that they wear, the velvet shirts or the velveteen shirts that they're wearing. So this painting is really all about being Navajo, right? Or about displaying their pride in their tribe. One of the things that's very interesting about this painting is there's a bit of a contrast between the horse and the people, which are both done in a very realistic, almost sculptural, three-dimensional way. The artist renders them very realistically. And the background, which if you'll notice, there are a few little sprigs of southwestern plants here, and a few wisps of watercolor suggest mountain, sky, and land. So there's a very abstract background and a very realistic foreground with the figures. And this is an interesting tension because in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and this painting is actually from the 70s, it was very common for Native American artists who were trained at the Santa Fe Indian School to paint in the studio style. And the studio style was this style that became very popular that focused on linear quality, so not three-dimensional quality. So they were paintings that focused on color, blocks of color next to one another that didn't exist in the third dimension. This is interesting because what the artist is doing here is he's setting up a tension between the horse and the riders, which are done in a very realistic, more Euro-American style, and the background, which is clearly owes a lot to that Santa Fe style. So this is a work of, it's an autoethnographic work, and what I mean by that is it's a work of art that is about being Navajo, right? So here's a Navajo artist who's painting a Navajo scene, and it's all about what it means to be an Indian, what it means to be a Native. So because of market forces, Native artists sold almost exclusively to white patrons or to white tourists. So the main thing that they could sell was their own identity, their own ethnicity, right? So here, the artist, who is a Navajo artist, is selling the idea or a picture of what it means to be a Navajo person at the time. So there's this tension, though, because he's not painting it quite in the studio style, in the accepted Indian way. He's breaking in a little bit into a Euro-American style. So it's a nice kind of contrast between those two things. And that, I think, is most interesting because it shows that by 1977, the studio style had sort of given way to a lot of different hybrid styles. So you have Lee, who's doing one style, and you have a lot of other artists who are doing a lot of different variations on the studio style. So autoethnographic art isn't always bad. It's not always a negative connotation. It did allow for artists who were Native American, who were going under tremendous social and other types of changes, a lot of assimilation to white culture, to the mainstream culture. It did allow them to hold on to some of their original traditions and cultures by way of paint. I hope this was informative for everyone today, and I hope you enjoyed it. And please look back in the spring for the next installment of Curator's Choice. Thank you.